We just wanted to have a chat about FPB 97 ICEBERG. I'm absolutely thrilled to have the chance to speak to Steve Dashew of Dashew Offshore, who, of course, with his wife Linda, is responsible for the FPB series. And here he is at home in the desert. So the first question I have is FPB, functional powerboat. You designed and built 18 of these. Please describe, you've got 50 words here, Steve, the concept.
Its concept is the better cruising tool. It's when we've been sailors all our lives and hated powerboats, and when we sold Beowulf, our last sailboat, our last proper yacht, 78-foot water ballasted ketch, that was a great mom and pop cruiser. We thought, what are we going to do if we want to continue cruising on our own? And that's where it came from. We wanted the most efficient boat the two of us could handle, in particular to go to high latitudes.
And that was Windhorse?
Exactly. And I have to say that I never quite got used to the concept of being on a powerboat, but she allowed us to, in 7 years of part-time cruising, we put over 60,000 nautical miles on her, just the two of us.
Wow. And then after Windhorse came Cochise, 78-1, and you also did a lot with her, yes?
Yeah, we put, let's see, we put almost 20,000 miles on her in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And of course, the trip back from Fiji to Florida, that was quite remarkable in that was the theory. What the boat was designed to do was to go uphill, but we didn't really expect to use it in that context. Although she was so comfortable that when we were doing sea trials in Fiji, that rather than return to New Zealand, we said, well, let's just go to Panama. It's only 7,000 miles uphill.
Wow. Okay, so today I just wanted to talk to you about ICEBERG. Of course, ICEBERG is the largest and the fastest of the FPBs. And from our conversations before, you said that you considered she was the largest yacht that you and Linda could handle on your own. What were the other imperatives? What were the other design ideas for that boat?
ICEBERG started because Linda left me alone when we had Windhorse in Corey McMahon's boatyard in Beaufort doing a 7-year update on just preventative maintenance on things like hoses and exhaust system, et cetera, making a few minor changes. And I got bored and started noodling, and we were thinking in terms of, well, what is it, if we took what we learned in the 60,000 some miles we'd done with Windhorse, and we learned quite a bit with the changes we'd made in the hull shape with the 64s, what would we do next? And we thought, well, we'll stretch her a little bit, and we wanted a bit more space outside, et cetera. So she was just an idea but fairly well fleshed out when the eventual owner for the boat came to us looking for just such a yacht.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the thing that fascinates me is that, of course, you had Windhorse, and you used her as a 90% scale model of ICEBERG to kind of check out the design. How did that work, and what did you do?
Well, one of the problems you have when you do tank testing is scale effect and Reynolds numbers. And it's very difficult to get accurate data from tank tests unless you go to like 1/3 models and you have historic data on how those models perform. Anything smaller is you're guessing. When we developed the hull shape for ICEBERG, she was basically a scaled up. We started with a scaled up version of Windhorse, and so when we got into the design in a serious context, in order to get a really good handle on how the boat would perform and what kind of power was required, we actually pulled the injectors, the injectors and injection pump off the engines and had the rack settings changed. She had a pair of 4-cylinder John Deeres that were 150 horsepower, and we reduced those to 105 horsepower. Now that sounds crazy, 205 horsepower engines in a 83-foot yacht for wind horse, but they pushed us 13.5 knots. And then when we did that test, and then we did some, we were fiddling with the hull shape a little bit, and we ended up having making an extension for the swim platform that brought us pretty much into exact scale for what eventually became the iceberg hull shape. And you think, okay, if she went in the water, originally she had a pair of 230 horsepower 6-cylinder diesels, and you say, this is a 100 and some foot yacht. You're crazy, you can't drive a boat like that. And yet she did, from memory, she did just under 14 knots on sea trials with those 2 little diesels in her.
Extraordinary, extraordinary. Because she was repowered in 2017, and that was something that I think improved the boat hugely. You obviously were talking to the owner when that was done. You felt that was a major step forward. Can you explain that?
Okay, well, when we did the basic engineering for the drive line and exhaust system for Iceberg, we typically are very conservative on those elements, and they were sized so that we could go to the next size up John Deere block from what we had in the boat. So the change was actually quite simple to do in terms of the basic infrastructure that was in the engine room. The advantage of the larger diesels is that at cruise speed, at normal cruise, they could be run slower, and they were actually more efficient at the lower horsepower ratings than were the engines that she was originally specified with. So we didn't really lose anything at the slow speed end, and they gave her the ability to I think she has ocean crossing capability. I mean, she can go transatlantic at probably 13.5, 14 knots with her fuel range.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what is it that you love about Iceberg most?
There are several things. What I like the most is the performance, and what the capability that performance gives us if we're using a boat, or the owner. When you can make long ocean passages at high average speeds, and with the new engines, 12.5, 13, 14 knots is not even an issue. It just opens so many possibilities for where you can go with a boat. The boat speed, again, the high average cruising speed makes it possible to use weather systems to your advantage, rather than being sort of at their mercy, even on long passages. And that has a huge impact on comfort, safety, and the fun. And the bottom line in all this is that, like as with all of our boats, steering control is foremost, and she can be steered at very high speed surfing without any worry about some of the things that other yachts have problems with. I mean, you can be going down a wave at 20, 25 knots, and the autopilot steering the boat perfectly happy, and boat stable, and in fact, the faster you go, the more comfortable you are. When you look at that in terms of heavy weather issues, avoiding bad weather, and just making it possible to go places that you normally wouldn't go on a yacht, it just opens up a whole new world. So it's the unique thing about Iceberg is that she has this not only high speed potential, but she can do it for thousands of miles with her fuel range.
Okay, so would be your message to somebody who is thinking of becoming her new owner?
First and foremost, she is a very efficient cruising tool. And you have to be prepared to think in new terms of what's possible. And where with a conventional yacht that maybe goes 8, 9, 10 knots at the most in trans-ocean capability, instead of talking 200 miles a day, as you are with most larger yachts at best, when you're talking 300, 350 miles a day, it just changes all of your options. So you have to start thinking in terms of the possibilities that where you can go and how far you can go. One of the things that drives the thinking on most large yachts is the availability of fuel. And where do you rebunker? Well, when you have the kind of fuel efficiency that ICEBERG has and the range in normal cruising, let's say you're based in Europe and you want to go to Svalbard and come back and do the Med. I mean, you can go Med Svalbard back to the UK and still have probably 40% of your tankage left over.
That does make a huge difference, doesn't it? Yeah. What about the complexity of running the boat? Do you think that it needs somebody with a degree in nuclear physics to run her, or do you think that she's a sailor's yacht?
Well, first and foremost, she's a sailor's yacht. I mean, because we're sailors, to the extent that any proper sailor can have a powerboat. But if you're going to have a powerboat, this is probably the one that you want. As with most large yachts, there's a degree of complexity, but the key, and this is something that we know from our many years of sailing, the key to managing the yacht and maintaining the yacht and dealing with any issues that occur is access. If you jam everything in, you can't get at it, then you cannot do preventative maintenance. Then you have more problems, and you have to take the boat apart to get at the things that you have to work on. On the other hand, if you have access, if you have space that you can see the gear, that you can access it, you catch the leaks before they're a major problem, etc. And so, if you have to repair a pump or air conditioner, whatever it is, you don't have to be a specialist to get at it. That's the key. If you have access to this stuff, it makes the maintenance much easier. And ICEBERG, as with all of our yachts, systems access is the very first priority.
Okay, and just one more question before we go. The matrix deck on ICEBERG is fabulous. It's teak-laid. It's really, really comfortable. I mean, you've probably done more mileage on FPBs than anyone else, as well as having designed them. How much did you use the matrix deck?
Well, the matrix deck on the 97, and of course that was the driver in the design of the 78s that was so successful. It does two things. One is it's a very comfortable place from which to con the boat. That's its first priority, is how do you, both on soundings in traffic and just offshore, it's designed as a place from which you drive the boat. Now you can also, of course, drive from inside, but sometimes the extra height is helpful from a visibility standpoint. The second thing it gives you is a totally separate and isolated area, so that if you have guests on board or crew, or you just want if you want space, there are, between the great room and the matrix deck, you have two totally separate living areas that give people some freedom.
Breathing space, yeah.
Breathing space.
And of course the aft deck is also actually really comfortable.
Well, the aft deck is set on ICEBERG, which we've not duplicated on the smaller boats. She has a built-in settee, eating area with a table, and of course she has the outdoor cooking area and sink and fridge, etc. And once the dinghy's off the deck and you've got that big awning sitting over it, you bring out the outdoor furniture, and it's a lovely shaded area that's especially in the tropics is just really quite nice.
Mm-hmm. So ICEBERG really is a yacht for all oceans, all seasons.
Definitely. She's well, you can see in some of the videos she's got a very nice motion in going uphill and downhill, and I think there's some video of bringing her back during sea trials from the Auckland area in gale force conditions, probably a 3, 4, 5 meter sea running, blowing 40 to 50 knots, and she's just surfing along at 15, 16, 18 knots. The horizon's absolutely level. Nobody's paying much attention to anything, and I mean, that's, you can't ask for anything more.
Is that what you saw when you sat down to design ICEBERG? Is that what you hoped?
She actually came out better than we had expected. The performance numbers we hit right on the money, but the motion was a little bit softer than we thought it would be.
Thank you so much, Steve, for your time today. That's been absolutely great. So if you have any queries or would like to know more about FPB 97 ICEBERG, please do get in touch.